Hey, welcome back again. This time, I want to talk about fear. And this is going to be very closely related to another video that I did a while back. I talked about how knowledge is power. And this is kind of inspired by a podcast I just listened to, a couple of extremely good horsemen on it. And they were talking about how over the years, as they got to know more, they feared less. And I kind of related that to the horse and how the horse, feels about things. The more you teach them and the more they get to know, the cooler they are about things because knowledge is power. The more you know, and learning becomes not a big deal, and new things are not a big deal. There's just something else to figure out. Well, the more you know, the better you feel. So knowledge is power in that respect. And I think that works along with the fear too, and they were talking about it to do with working with horses, but I'm going to talk about it also, I'm going to get to that too, but also with how the horse feels about things, because if they don't know much, they're going to be a little nervous and worried and fearful of things because they don't understand. But well, as you can see, these ones realize that there's absolutely nothing to fear with me here. That I'm not going to hurt them. I'm not going to hit them. I'm not going to get mad at them or yell at them or anything. They have that knowledge, and that knowledge makes them not fear. That's one of the things with how knowledge and fear, the more knowledge you have, the less fear you have. So this is something I want to talk about, because it works with both horses and humans. And I thought this was really good when they were talking about it in this podcast. And I'll elaborate on exactly the whole topic of what they were talking about. It had more to do with doing silly things, but it really, the light bulb really went on for me on that one, because it made me realize that, because I'm thinking back to the video I did about, leadership. And, I said, some people have a problem being a good leader because they lack confidence and they're a little scared of the horses. Well, and that kind of goes both ways. When you start acting that way, the horse acts that way, and then you have a reason to act that way, which makes the horse act that way more, and it just keeps escalating. And but this is what I want to try and explain, is that the more you understand the horse, the more knowledge that you have, excuse me, dear, get your nose out of the way, the more knowledge that you have about horses, and the more that you understand them, the less fearful of them you will be. Knowledge is power. And, the more knowledge that you have about horses, the less fearful you will be. And the less fearful you will be, the better behaved the horses will be around you. So the two just very closely go together. One amplifies the other. If you get worried about stuff, well, the horse gets worried. And if the horse acts worried, you get more worried, and it just keeps getting. But if you go the other way around, you learn more, you get calmer. Well, if you're calmer, the horse is calmer. If the horse is calmer, you're calmer again. And that just keeps going on until you have these nice, cool horses that just stand around whenever you want them to. And you don't have to be fearful of them. You don't have to worry about, am I going to get kicked, bit, or slammed into a wall or bucked off, or none of that stuff. You don't have to worry about any of that stuff. The more that you know. And you don't have to be a genius to know this stuff. I mean, your IQ and everything else, it really is irrelevant. And you don't have to have a great deal of education. You just have to have a little empathy, understanding, and spend some time with the horses. Be observant, pay attention, and you'll learn. And the more you learn, the less fearful you will be about them. And, that's kind of what this whole podcast was talking about. Well, actually, they talked about quite a few things, but that was one of the ones they were talking about is, how when they were young, starting off working with horses, they were a lot, because they knew a lot less then, they were a lot more worried and nervous. And, they made a lot more mistakes that way because they knew less and they were more fearful. But as they learned more, they became less fearful and things worked better for them. Oh, by the way, both of these gentlemen that were on this particular podcast are world famous horsemen too. They're just, and yet both of them started out, well, one more than the other, but, they started out, pretty worried people that didn't know a whole lot. No, like I said, nobody's born knowing anything. You got to learn it all. And the one guy in particular that was the guest on the podcast, he is absolutely world famous right now for his skills, Liberty Acts, and his training abilities, and everything else. And he's a young guy that started off. He didn't start off with horses. He wasn't born. He didn't grow up with horses. He had to learn it all, everything. He didn't have any. He didn't grow up on a ranch. The host did, but even he had to learn. And he made mistakes when he was young. But, like I said, the more you learn, the less you got to worry about and the less you're going to be afraid of. And it goes both ways, both for you and the horse, okay? So knowledge is power, and it also kicks fear out the door. And when the fear goes out the door, both you and the horse are better off for it. So there you go. How much do you know? The more you know, the less you fear. Have a good day.